kind of, when I was growing up, I never thought twice about it. I was like every other little kid who went to McDonald's and ate the Happy Meal. But as time went on, I just started thinking, maybe I saw one too many PETA videos or whatnot, and I really said, well, what's going on here? It really is horrible. Like for example, you wouldn't want to kill your little dog. Americans love their animals. They love their cats. They love their dogs. Well, you know, why? So if that's the case, then why is it okay to judge that and say it's horrible to kill a cat or a dog? They're your little pets. They're your little animals. But it's not okay to do that. So that's why they don't kill their cats. They don't kill their dogs. But why is it okay to kill cows? They're just another creature also, even with a bigger brain, some might say. And yet we slaughter these cows every day, every year. And we say, well, it's okay to do this because they're food. It's food for our table. We're hungry. Even if you get on a religious aspect about it, it says in the Bible that they're here for our need, to serve us. Well, what if somebody's not religious? What if that's a whole nother topic? Well, I'm not really religious per se, but I don't read the Bible and I don't agree with a lot of things. I think a lot of it's silliness, but to each his own. But now when it comes back to tying that into animals, I think it's horrible because why would you want to go home and pet your little dog and little cat and show it so much love, but then it's okay to take a cow by the leg and hang it upside down and slaughter it? It has feelings too. You wouldn't do that to a dog or cat. And some people might say, like if you're a hunter, you might say, well, it's just meat. We're not wasting it. We're eating it. Well, by that same token, then, as long as I'm eating the meat and not wasting it, it's okay. So therefore, I can go. It's okay for me to go kill a human. Then, hey, as long as I eat it and don't waste the meat, it should be okay, right? Then why do you arrest Jeffrey Dahmer then? It's just one of those things where I don't want to feel like I have to go into a whole speech about the way, or why I think the way I think, or my beliefs. But I feel like I have to. If people ask me why I do this or why I do this or don't do this, well, I want to explain myself in a no nonsense approach, and in a I like to think about what I'm doing, and I like to express myself in a clear way. And when I try to do that, people might scratch their head and think, wow, this guy's too negative, or he thinks too much. Well, I'm not really. You just asked. But tying that back to animals, what I'm trying to say is that hunters, they go and kill deer, and they say, well, it's not wasteful because we're using the meat. But like I said, I just think it's horrible because could you imagine that if somebody told you that you were going to die in 3 days, you'd be terrified for 3 days. You'd probably cry, you'd probably be nervous, and you'd probably throw up, thinking, my gosh, I'm going to die. Well, these other animals like cows and chickens, they have feelings too, and pigs. If you walk by a cow or a pig or a chicken and you try to stab it with a knife, it's gonna scream or it's gonna squeal, and it's horrible. And those animals, they have feelings,
Mm-hmm.
And so, I know you're probably thinking, well, perfect example. Wow, he's talking about he's expressing his feelings, but that's the way I see things, though. That's just a fact, It's one of those things where if you knew that you were going to die in 3 days, you'd feel horrible. Well, why is it any different for a cow that's going to get slaughtered? Back in the Holocaust, it was horrible what happened. Knowing that your number's up and you're going to be the next to go, it's terrifying. It's horrible. It's inhumane.
Right, I can see.
And so why is it any different for another animal? What makes us so much better? What makes us so much special? Do we not have 2 eyes like a cow has? No, we're not a cow, but we are a creature on the earth that has feelings. And something like a cow, that they know when horrible things are happening in the slaughterhouse, they try to run, or they can hear the distress calls being signaled out by their fellow creature, and they know what's happening, and it's not pleasant. And we didn't like it back in the early 40s when Hitler was doing it, but it's okay for us to do it with animals. Like they have no feelings or whatsoever. Let's just go ahead and slaughter them like they're just a piece of meat, and that's it. As long as we don't waste them, there's no harm done, right? And that's what I pretty much think. I'm like, well, if there's no harm done, let's start doing the same thing to humans too. I just think it's horrible the way life is set up, where unfortunately it seems like you have to consume in order to live. You have to kill in order for yourself to live. And I don't think that's the case. I think that's why I'm trying to get away from wanting to do the things I've done in the past, like eat meat or become a vegetarian. that's just one aspect of my life, and people think, wow, okay, that's Mr. Gloom and Doom there, but you asked why I think the way I do, or why I didn't want that burger that you offered me, and I think it's disgusting, and I'll let you know about it too. That's why I don't want to eat that hamburger. Maybe you should think twice about eating it too.
Right. Well, I can see that you're truly compassionate about animals, even though I know you're trying to bring up your point on to me, saying that you're very realistic on the way you see things, and on your values as well. And so, because you're so charismatic, I can see that it's because you view what happens, where your food's coming from, like slaughterhouse, and that makes you want to better yourself by becoming a vegetarian, because that's what you had mentioned earlier, that you are a vegetarian and you don't really appreciate the idea of eating meat.
Well, not only that, I'm trying to be healthy. I haven't lived a healthy lifestyle, as you can tell right now. I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to do the right things. This wasn't a matter of being healthy. It was just a matter of basically opening my eyes to the world. Finally, I've been going through life with blinders, I feel like, and now I knew it's always there. I know that the chicken McNugget didn't automatically appear there out of a refrigerator for me. I knew that there was always going to be misery behind that, but I just chose not to look at it. I chose to look at it with blinders, because I don't want to think that deep. I want to be like everybody else and go through life with blinders, and because the more you think, I think that the more you think and the more you question things, you are going to have a negative outlook at life, because life is pretty much negative. We're born and then we die. It's sad, it's unfortunate, but back to what I was saying about animals and whatnot. People in China, they slaughter dogs. I've seen the videos. They hang them up and they skin them alive and they kill them, and you hear their little screams and their yelps. Well, Americans, they look at that in disbelief, like it's so horrible. But by the same token, I'm thinking, well, just like the people like to say, well, hey, they're not wasting that meat. They're eating it. Who cares? But by that same token, there's suffering behind it. I think it's awful. You wouldn't want to do that to your fellow human being. So why would they do that to an animal? And for those people who think, well, humans and animals are different, well, we're different to a certain extent, but even though those are quote-unquote called animals, they still have feelings. They still cherish their life. They still like to walk and frolic in the grass and kick up their little feet. If you ever see a cow who has been released into the pasture, they value their life too. So you wouldn't want to see, your little dog or cat being slaughtered, even if it's being eaten and the meat's being used. It's just awful, I think. And but Americans, they'll say, oh, that's horrible, that's awful. But by the same token, your same argument is, well, at least they're using the meat. But it still doesn't leave a good feeling with you, does it? And so with that being said, why is it okay to let your little dog and cat live and cuddle up next to you on the couch and pet its little head, and I think it's so cute, but you have no problem slaughtering that cow?
Right.
You don't have no problem slitting its throat, watching its tongue go back and its eyes roll over while it bleeds out. I think it's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible, because how this meat is brought to how it's prepared to you, how it's all the trouble has to go through, all the torture you feel that it's going through. So you just feel terrible about that.
Yeah,
all animals that have to go through that, and all animals that suffer.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't want to do that to a human, and people who have done that to humans have been sentenced to death.
Right.
So why is it okay for us to do that to animals like cows and whatnot, just because they're called an animal? Well, a human is just an animal too. Maybe it's a different kind of animal, but it still has a brain, just like any other creature on the earth, and it has 2 eyes,
Mm-hmm.
It has appendages like legs and arms, and they have feelings, and they give birth. They have offspring, and like any other creature, if you stick it with a knife, it's going to cry in pain, it's going to bleed, and it's horrible. And that's the way I feel about, that's just one example about how I feel about food, for example. Now, some might say, well, wow, that's really horrible, but that's the way I see it. I think that you might call it horrible, but I call it the truth. Did that cow not get slaughtered? Right there, it did.
Mm-hmm.
Does my job not frustrate me? Are these things at my job happening? Are they lies? Or am I being factual about it? No. I mean, if it's 1 a.m. in the morning and I'm still at work because somebody didn't do their part, then that's the truth to me. I'm still here because somebody didn't do the work. I'm doing the overtime because they're shorthanded. They had somebody go watch their little daughter do a ballet recital, and that's fine. I know family, people who have families, they have obligations, but I just feel like I get punished because they know I don't have a child right now. Me and my wife don't have a child, so they feel like they can just kind of push all this overtime onto me, and they might actually think that they're doing me a favor, but they're not. I value my free time. I can't wait for the clock to strike, quitting time, because I want to go home. I want to have a normal relaxation time. I don't want to be at work at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm supposed to get off at 9. I don't want to work until 1.
Right.
You can pay me an extra time and a half, an extra $8 an hour on top of my salary. It doesn't really matter to me though, and but that's the way it is. And so when somebody asks me about my job, I didn't make up a lie. I really am there at 1 o'clock in the morning. So how is that lying? How is that being negative? I'm just basically reciting to you what happened and it's just it is. It's not any exaggeration. It's just when somebody asks me in my job what it involves, or if I like it, I just tell them, well, I didn't have a good day today because I had to work an extra 4 hours when I didn't feel like I should.
Right.
Why is that being negative? That's just being truthful.
Mm-hmm. So you feel that maybe people are taking advantage of you because you don't have children, and you feel like it's not fair. You should be treated equally.
Yes, and when somebody asks me questions, I feel like if I don't give them what they want to hear, it's like, then why'd you ask me? Did you want me to just lie to you? You just wanted me to tell a bold-faced lie like, oh, everything's great. Well, I know that nobody likes to be around somebody who's always down, but I don't look at myself as being down. I look at myself as just being honest and being truthful. Mm-hmm. Does it appear blue right now? Well, yes, the sky appears blue. How is that being down or negative? That's just how I see it. Mm-hmm. Is it 40 degrees outside? It's cold outside, right? Well, yes, it's 40 degrees. It's cold. How is that being negative? I'm just being honest. I'm being factual. I'm being truthful.
So I guess what you're trying to tell me is that you feel that everybody else is just viewing you as negative, and you're not being negative, you're just being honest, and you also feel that maybe people are wanting to hear things that aren't true from you, because when you tell them the truth, they view it as negative, or they view it as something they don't really want to hear. They just want to hear it as kind of like hearsay, like, how are you doing? I'm doing great, that type of thing, right?
Yeah, they want
they want an unrealistic type answer. They don't want the full truth on everything.
Yeah, they want a robot. They want a robotic response. They want to say, how's your day? And I've learned now to say, oh, it's great. Bye, let's move on. But when it comes to family life, well, when your family, your wife asks you that question, you can't just say that, or you try to, then you get accused of not opening up or not sharing your feelings. So then when you share how you really feel or how your day really went, then they kind of seem like they regret asking that question, because they're like, oh great, now I have to listen for the next 5 minutes how his day went. Well, I'm not trying to extend my story. I'm not trying to bore you to tears. I'm just telling you how it went. You asked, and
So
if I had to work for an extra 4 hours and I didn't like it, I had to work for an extra 4 hours. How's that being negative? It's just how it is.
So when they say it, are you talking about your wife or your coworkers?
Well, for example, my wife might ask me how my day went, and when I give her just, oh, it's great, honey, thanks. Then I get accused of not opening up or not sharing my feelings, and then when I tell her what happened, I get accused of being negative, and it's not really being negative. I mean, I see every day favoritism at my job. I see other employees get the special treatment from the boss, get the extra perks that I don't get. I do my best to. I'm not one of these people who go and hug the boss every chance I get, or buy him flowers. What am I supposed to do? I mean, sorry that I don't like football. I don't know who scored the touchdown in last night's game. Who cares? I think football's stupid. Who cares about these overpaid athletes? So now I feel like I got to go pretend to like something I don't, just to get along with somebody. That's not me. I'm going to be cordial and I'm going to be nice to you. But I do notice that those people who do share the same interests as him, and that's probably only natural, but those people who share the same interest, or who go talk to him about the football game last night, or who won NASCAR or whatever it could be, I just notice that they get preferential treatment, and their job performance is subpar. It doesn't compare to what I'm doing. I'm known as a guy who's going to go the extra mile, and if you offer me the overtime, I'm not going to turn it down. Do I want to turn it down? Yes. I've done it before, and I kind of felt like I was being punished for it before. Um, how so? You can kind of tell when your boss is displeased with you. He doesn't have to say it. You can just tell. And so I just feel like, I'm not one of these guys who's a kiss ass who's going to go and, act like I'm interested in every single thing that the boss is saying about a football team. I just don't really care. And I can't lie to somebody about that. All I can do is nod my head and go, uh-huh. I can't offer anything to that kind of conversation because I don't know anything about it. I'm not interested in it. But I feel like I'm kind of punished for my lack of knowledge in football because those guys who do buddy with them, buddy up to them, you can tell they get preferential treatment, and I think it's makes me sick, to be honest with you. But what can I do?
Mm-hmm. So you feel a little bit forced to do overtime or just do whatever extra work your boss asks you to do when other people aren't doing it because you don't hold a common ground with him when it comes to personal life.
Yeah, and then when I share these feelings with my wife, she's like, kind of like, well, gee, I'm sorry I asked you. Is there anything good about your day that you can talk about? And I'm like, well, sure, but that's what happened. So don't punish me for you asked the question, and I gave you my answer. Like as you can tell, it's not just personal with my wife. It's other, it could be any friend. For example, my philosophy on food, or trying to be a vegetarian, or why I like certain things, why I don't like other things, and or just a number of things. It just doesn't matter. It just seems like pretty much whenever I open myself up to somebody, whether it's a new person I met or a stranger or even some of my older friends, they've always said, well, you've always been that kind of person. You've always looked at the negative side of life. You've always done this and that. And I just kind of shake my head and think, well, what are you talking about? I mean, that's just the way I see things. I don't live in a Walt Disney world. I see with my own eyes what I see, and that's what I see. I observe and I report back, basically. And so if that's called being negative, then I'm sorry, that's how life is, I think. And as a result of me doing that, I notice it makes a lot of people shy away from me or tend to avoid me or basically, like I said, they just refer to me as having a negative outlook.
So you told me that you really don't think that you're negative, you're more realistic. However, you're saying that people are shying away from you because they believe you're negative. So what does that say to you?
It says that I think that people don't have a grasp on their day-to-day life. I'm at least willing to look at life how it is.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, the chances of you winning the lottery are 1 in what, a billion? But everybody else is like, oh, there's still that chance. Or just stop thinking so negative. Or you can't win if you don't play. Well, I'm telling you, well, you can still play, but you're most likely you're not going to win the lottery. I do apologize. That's just a fact.
Right. And how does this realistic type emotion or grasp on life make you feel? How does it make you feel?
I think it makes me feel like an outsider because everybody wants to live in a dream world, and you know what? I'm no different. I would love to win the lottery. I would love to not have to work. I would love to not see a cow get slaughtered for me to consume. I would love to stop these cravings I have to consume these animals. I would love for me to be a millionaire or billionaire and live in my own house, my own mansion, and not have to ever worry about anything. And I'd like to donate my extra money to those poor individuals who are in need. I want to be kind. I want to be generous. But the fact of the matter is, those things just factually, they're not going to happen. I don't see myself winning the lottery. I don't see myself coming up with some kind of medical invention that's going to cure everybody and make me a billionaire and have everybody hoist me on their shoulders and say, you're number one and you're a great human being. I feel like I'm confined into, basically only doing what I'm able to do. I fully admit that I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm yet not the dumbest. I do think a lot, but I just basically, even though I think a lot and I think I have a good grasp on things, I just don't know how to escape my day-to-day routine of basically the day-to-day routine of me being some kind of slave to a job, or a slave to how other people want me to be. Um, there's just so much that I feel that I don't have control of.
Yeah. I can see that you feel a little bit forced about certain things because you feel that society wants you to do it. When I say society, I mean like your employer or your wife or your friends. But if you just think back on the past few things you just said, do you believe that those things are positive things or negative things?
I'm sorry, what do you mean? When I
Like
look,
when you look back on your past sentence and you say cow slaughtering, uh, you're obligated to do certain things for work. Would you say that those things would be considered positive or negative things with no middle ground? Just how would you feel in regard to that? What do you think that those things are to you? Do you think that those are maybe a little bit more negative than positive, or more positive than negative because they're more real?
well, I think those subject matters are negative. Nobody likes to feel broke. Nobody likes to, think of some animal suffering. Nobody likes to be caught in a job they feel like they're going nowhere at, like it's a dead-end job. Nobody likes to have any of those kind of emotions. But they say part of the process is first recognize. For example, if you're an alcoholic, what's the first thing they say? The first step is to actually acknowledge that you have a problem. Well, I think that's what